In yet another of a series of government interventions geared towards providing relief in light of the rise in cost of living and cost of production, and in fulfillment of the PPPC's manifesto promise, Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdio, in a recent meeting held with the membership of the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association, announced the following measures that will benefit the mining community. $2.4 billion to be spent on upgrading of roads in mining areas. Reduction of final tax from 3.5% to 2.5%. This is equivalent to $1.4 billion returning to the industry. Removal of the 10% tributous tax. This will result in about a reduction of $300 million in taxes and benefit thousands of workers in the industry. The removal of value-added tax on lubricating oils. This will have an impact in all productive sectors across the country. These measures represent $1.9 billion in support to the industry overall. I took to the streets today to speak with several miners and members of the Guyana Gold and Diamonds Miners Association to ascertain their views on these developments. So I'm talking here with Mr. PERSAUD from Crown Mining. Now, just yesterday, the Vice President would have announced that government would have reduced the final tax from 3.5 to 2.5, taken away the 10% tributous tax, removed VAT from lubricants.
Concerning the lube oil and the other reduction of the from the 3.5 to 2.5%, it's a welcome assurance from the VP. We always noted he's always willing to flex when there's times of crisis, and this is the time of crisis because, as you all know, the gasoline and oil price and diesel price is at world high right now. So the miners welcome these assistance, and we welcome his intervention. This has been very significant for us. We're also saying that the 20% then removed to 10%. Now he has zero rated the tributous tax. This was an onerous problem between workers and their employers. This was something that was always on the battlefield. We feel that this has taken a lot of burden off of miners.
Well, it will have a tremendously positive impact. I mean, the world right now is going through so many shocks. And as the same thing in Guyana, we're facing massive rise in costs of everything. So the government has, again, while they were in opposition, they showed their commitment to the mining sector since they've taken power. I know they've also continued to show that commitment to the mining sector, not just by words, but by their action. The savings on the tax side. So we're going from a sliding scale tax where you pay your royalties as well as the additional 3.5% off the top, plus the royalty. Now we're looking at going down to 2.5% based on current gold prices. That is massive savings for miners that would go back to help fund those additional costs. The 10%, the removal of the 10% tributous tax is also of tremendous benefit, not just to the owners of operations, the miners who own the operation, but in particular to the personnel who work in the interior. Because to that 10% for these men and women who work in the interior, who also are dependent, who typically work for 6 weeks, 2 months, then they're out, then they're looking to work with someone else. I mean, every single dollar that they could retain at this point to also help them and their personal expenses and their families to help mitigate the impact of these snowball costs, these exacerbated costs, is a very welcome.
Well, especially with the tributous tax, that is a very good thing because that thing used to cause problem with we and workers. Because when a worker know that he got to pay the money, he would, he would go to other location to see where he wouldn't. It was a stressful thing for we as miners. Yeah, and the removal of the taxes on oil is a very good thing. And the thing with the roads, we can't ask for better.
Right now the roads are in deplorable state. And with the amount of money that he said will be, the Honorable Vice President said will be allocated to these roads now. That will make a big, big difference. It will bring down cost of production a lot and time. And that will benefit a lot of miners that will be using those roads. And those 3 roads that has been identified is where most miners are traversing. So that will definitely bring down the cost of production. But that is what we were asking for a long, long time. And I was very, very happy yesterday when the Honorable VP announced this 3.5% to 2.5%. He took 0.5%, which is still good.
The reduction on the tax, the 3% to 2.5%, that will help miners a great lot. That's like a incentive miners get back from the government. And that would encourage a lot of miners to go to the gold board and sell the gold and do things more legal.
Well, it's beneficial because as a poor miner, it can help a lot because transp, when the road is bad, is very high. So doing the road now, it can be very cheaper and it can be more beneficial for the miners that now coming up.
The tributaries tax and the final tax reduction, does that put more money in your pocket?
Yes, sir, it does. It does. It can help a lot because as them drop it, at least we can get a little more something in our pocket.
The astute politician, as the Vice President is, and the economist, putting the two together make him a very credible leader of our country. And presenting those packages yesterday was welcomed by the association. We, at this featuring address to the industry yesterday, we actually give this the equation, so to speak, by presenting the macroeconomic position of our country, and also what we didn't have in that equation was the numbers. So after presenting the macroeconomics of our country, the vision of his government for the country, then he left us with a position for us to determine whether or not those incentives that were given could have been given. With him being at the advantage of having the numbers, right, and delivering it at the end of the, when in his wrapping up address, was very, very good for the industry, right? What the point I'm trying to make here is that he didn't just come on and say, well, this is what you guys are asking for, and this is what I will give to you. He put us first in a position to see if this was possible by his government to give it to us. It also drives home the point that the government is very, very concerned about the continual existence of the domestic, traditional industries, which would save us from the Dutch disease. So yes, it would assist the miners. In respect of the removal of the 10% tributaries tax, that put us in a position to be more competitive, because right now the workforce in our country, the industry is very competitive. We've got to be competitive with it.
Well, just to say something funny, you know, usually as Guyanese, when we talk about roads, everybody say, yeah, but you can't eat the roads.
Right.
However, I think a lot of Guyanese fail to realize that these roads, the roads heading into the interior, have a direct economic and social impact, not only for the miners, but for everyone who lives and works in Guyana's hinterland regions.
Tributous tax removed, VAT removed from lubricants, and your final tax from 3.5 to 2.5. What does that say to the pockets of a miner?
Well, you know, I mean, first off, you might say, yeah, it's just a little bit, but when you look at the economics of it, it's quite significant when you consider continuous gold sales, especially in volume. It's less money coming out of my pocket, so I think it's practical.
In your general view, government has been putting systems in place to brace against the economic crisis that we have been facing here in Guyana, coming out of COVID-19 and also being the impact of the Ukraine war. Are you satisfied with the interventions being made by government to cushion the effects being felt here in Guyana?
I am satisfied. I know that Rome was not built in a day and everything takes time, and we have a government who's filled with economists. So they will have a holistic view and approach to everything. They will try to do as much as they can, just not for mining, but for every sector. I sincerely believe that they understand the impacts of the war, of COVID, and how Guyanese have struggled.